other than we did start with Auburn City Ambulance back on the first. Things have been going well. Since the first, they've done almost 200 calls, so they're busy. And the only thing I have, and I really don't, it's not for discussion, but more of just as an FYI, one thing I'm gonna bring to the Ways and Means meeting next week is that we requested 2 new positions. Partially because one, we're already buried with, busyness, and then we took over Auburn City Ambulance. So those were both pulled. So I definitely want to talk about that. Hopefully we can at least get one of those back in there. I ran some budget numbers and some overtime numbers, and so I'll talk about that next week.
Just for information, Denise, how are we with open positions, people out for illnesses or whatever?
We have 1 vacancy right now. We have one who just came back who's just coming back from a medical leave on December 2nd. Yes, yeah. I have one who's gonna come back from a medical leave on December 2nd. I have another who's gonna go out in the middle of January for a medical leave. And we just can't keep up. It's tough. We've done about 484 days of overtime this year. We kind of mapped it out today to just highlight how much overtime these guys are getting hit with.
And when is the next training session or whatever?
We have a test that's going to be held. So the test was just posted 2 weeks ago. So the test will be held in January. We probably won't have a list. So even if we get those 2 new positions, we won't have a list till probably April. It'll be June before we hire. So that's one of the things I want to talk about is if you did not need to fund 2 full-time positions for the entire year next year, we could almost do like half positions for 2022 because it'll be almost June before we
So
hire.
even that vacant position right now, we can't really hire.
We need a list. The list we have right now, we just don't have any viable candidates on it, unfortunately. We look at that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other legislators have any questions for the singer?
I do.
I know you do. I'm just looking to see if anybody else does. Then. All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There was a concern about when the Auburn ambulance went online that we might have to do some additional hiring to handle those calls. Is that?
That's what we just talked about, Tim.
Yeah, I know, but I mean,
Yeah, we really need to split up our city and our county fire. We just don't have the staff to do that right now. And that's one of the things I explained. It almost would take 3 FTEs, full-time equivalent staff, to really handle that effectively. But we can kind of rearrange stuff. And the other unfortunate part is our supervisors, our working supervisors. They're not true supervisors because we just don't have staff to have them do strictly supervisory duties. So we kind of have a plan if we get some new positions, how we're going to make it work, but we need the positions to do it.
and the burnout rate, I mean, are we losing a lot of people? Retention?
So not generally, we don't, people generally, once they're trained, they stay, for their career, but that's one thing we've definitely been looking at is we used to see burnout, maybe 15 years of the job. It wears on you. We're starting to see that in our 7-8 year employees. The intensity of the calls is changing, as time changes, dealing with difficult people all day, every day, it really wears you down. So we're starting to see that in some of our younger employees, which worries me.
When you spoke last time, I just want to make sure I got this correct. Your dispatchers handled no TLC calls for emergency, or you just handled no calls for non-emergent transports?
We did not handle any of their non-emergent
So
transports.
that's what's the bigger burden. I mean, the emergency calls that like TLC, you guys handled the track.
Yeah.
It's the non-emergency calls that Auburn ambulance is going to take,
Yeah.
just like TLC is going to took.
Correct. Yeah.
Is where you feel the additional burden would be in terms of dispatching them and tracking them. Is that
Yeah.
what you said?
Yeah, and really the bigger issue is that fire dispatcher is accountable for every fire department in the county. So it's 20 agencies in the county, plus all of our EMS agencies. So if they get 2 big calls in the county and then they've got, their difficulty breathing, their sick person in the city, it just becomes very, very quickly too much to handle. That's why we need a county dispatch, county fire dispatcher and a city fire dispatcher. So that
Fire,
they're
not
gonna-
ambulance calls. or-
they do both,
Okay,
they do both,
okay.
sorry, yeah, fire and EMS is all one.
Okay.
So if we can break them up and let them focus on city versus county, like we do with our county and city law, it will make us so much more efficient.
And when we talked about this the first time, I thought someone said to you, have you even approached Auburn to do their non-emergencies? And you said, no, you really hadn't.
So we briefly talked about, but there's not, so I guess what it boils down to is they would have to hire somebody to take those calls.
But someone might ask you next week.
But, right, but then what's gonna happen is that person's gonna call us to dispatch them. So you're kind of playing a game of phone, which it's not really efficient to do that. I don't, I mean, we're such a,
TLC didn't have to hire someone to dispatch, they just did it all themselves.
they did, they're dispatch, yeah, so that wouldn't really work with the city because we have to dispatch them. So
Okay.
there would just not be really an efficient manner to do that. Just because we're a centralized dispatch center for the county, so for them to kind of break off and do one dispatch wouldn't really make sense.
And you were that, but not to TLC. That's where I was.
That's, yeah, TLC had their own dispatch center in
Okay.
Syracuse. They were
Okay,
totally
gotcha.
independent.
It's their own dispatch in
Correct.
Syracuse that covered this.
Yeah, and they do 3 counties, so it's not just, they're not just doing Riggs in the city of Auburn, they were doing Portland and, I don't know, as well.
Mr. Strong?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. How many ambulances do they have on every day? For about?
Do you want to speak up so the
Oh.
people online can hear?
I asked how many ambulances and staff crews do they have?
Generally, they have 3 staff ambulances, 24/7.
Thank you.
Nothing from people online, correct?
Nope.
Mr. Lattimore, one last question.
How many employees do you manage?
So we have 23 employees right now.
Just for the people on the bench.
I need to do,
Yeah, just very quickly, given the stats you're talking about and our ambulance, this sort of new ambulance configuration, are those 3 ambulances ever parked or do you see them, they're out and going all the time?
They have been extremely busy, that's why I'm saying, as of November 1st, they've done about 100, and I looked at 7 o'clock this morning, so they've done about 190 calls, that's a lot. They're busy, they're super busy.
move on to sign council and DWI. Mr. Hoskins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too don't have much to report. You've got my October report to the committee. Just the one thing in addition to that, today we were invited to apply for distribution number 12. We started 12 years ago with distribution number 1, and now we're up to 12. It's for 131,000, which would cover our attorney expenses for all the drug courts, behavioral health court, domestic violence court. So it's targeted for the attorney representation at the specialty courts. So I'll be working on submitting that budget between now and the end of the year. Other than that, you have my report. Do you have any questions?
Lloyd,
Yes, sir.
with the advent of this new intoxicant called marijuana, I discovered it in the 60s, but
Oh my God.
We're in public session. Be careful.
well, I had to see whether that was the right
Wasn't legal then.
combination. But I mean, do you see an increase in caseload?
Well, the marijuana laws changed, so now the only increase in caseload we get are those individuals coming to court that were initially charged with unlawful possession of marijuana, want that to go back to court and get it dismissed. So we do have an increase in attorney costs to get the charges dismissed.
So on top of that, we have drinking and driving, and now we're gonna have under the influence.
We'll see.
Yep, let's see. Be determined.
Right, that's to be determined. There hasn't been, there's a lot of
Anybody online for any other legislators? Thank you. Mr. Duckett, I know you're online. Do you have a report? I know you
Well,
have-
I have the one resolution, but I did want to report about the suicides. We're pretty busy for the past, it's been a week ago now, but for 6 weeks, we had 5 confirmed suicides, which was actually more than the entire first 8 months of the year. That was pretty alarming. There's one that's pending that they still haven't ruled one way or the other, so there's potential for it to be a 6th. I just felt that would be something to bring up to this committee, because, a lot of these, they're ranging from the age of, I believe, 20 to all the way up to the age of 80. So there was quite the variance in terms of people, in terms of the age demographic. But other than that, really, I don't have anything other to report than the replacement for an individual that will be retiring from our office at the end of the year.
So it's hired to fill to replace a person that's retiring. So okay, we have a motion from Daley. Do we have a second from Heidi Nightingale? Do we have any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone
Aye.
opposed?
Thank you.
Nobody opposed.
I did have a question for the doctor. Hey, hold on.
Sure.
For any abstentions? That's carried. Now, any other questions from legislators for Mr. Duckett?
Yes,
Go ahead, Jim.
Mr. Duckett, we are, the suicide thing, the lockdown that we've had with the COVID thing has got to contribute to some of that. Now, we are going to be in receipt of some opioid settlement money. I'd like to see us dedicate that to one of the Nick's Ride or one of the other ones that, so it doesn't go into the general fund and then have to come out again. So
I'm sure the legislator from your district will give you time to have a public comment when that comes up, Jim. I would hope so,
well, I wanted to input is,
I mean, I think that any support in terms of mental health or any of that would be obviously warranted. I think that, it's been a stressful time for a lot of people, and it's very sad to see. I think everybody has their reasons, but I just hope that we can create more opportunities for people to not be ashamed to get help. I think that there is a big stigma still with mental health. I think we've done a lot in this community for addiction in terms of changing people's thoughts on it for the most part. But still, as we've seen, I've seen through my tenure as coroner that a lot of the times you see these situations where, people are saying, I had no idea, or, what happened. So anyway, thank you.
thank you, Doc.
Thank you. Any other questions? Anybody online with anything? Otherwise, we'll continue to move on. Oh, Heidi, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're right in front of me. That's why I can't see you.
Yeah, so I'll raise my hand
No.
further up next time. A question for Dr. Duckett. When you investigate and then conclude that an incident is a suicide, is it clear when that is the determination that it wasn't accidental overdose? There's a differentiation then between suicide and overdose issues, like the investigation helps you to know that it's a clear intentional suicide?
That's a very good question. There are times where we've had, I think even listed this year, and I'd have to look back, there was an intentional suicide / overdose. All of the recent things in terms of The suicides that I was talking about, they were pretty evident suicides. But you're right, usually you could determine pretty quickly, for most cases, what they are right then and there. But you know, the one that's pending, I don't really want to go a lot of detail per se right now, but it's very difficult to sometimes determine somebody's intentions. But a lot of times, I think with overdoses, if you want to talk about them in general, I mean, you'll never really fully know, but most times these people weren't looking to die, you know, they weren't telling people I wanted to die, but I guess you, in many ways, have no absolute, you know what I mean, potential way of saying, but you just investigate to see, okay, were they in trouble? Were they heartbroken over something? Was there something that would push them to do this? And most times when there's not a scenario where you could see what that is, the determination when we work with the medical examiner in Syracuse is that it was most likely an accidental overdose.
That's very helpful. Thank you, doctor.
You're very welcome.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anybody online or in here from the DA's office? All right. I know he doesn't have any.
Yeah, I'm here. How are you, Mr. Chairman? John. Booth.
Okay. Very good. Do you have a report?
Well, there's a couple of small things happening around here. One of which is going to be the hopefully the succession come the end of the year, beginning of the year. We'll need to be filling some positions, backfilling some positions. We'll be bringing resolutions within the next month, filing them so they can be addressed. But we'll have to backfill an attorney for myself, already one attorney short, and potentially we'll be losing a support person and another attorney for law clerk. So we'll have a number of resolutions coming forward. These openings are going to be severely impacted by the August 21st Ways and Means Resolutions 4, which cut almost every position in our office, as well as 7 some other positions, but really doesn't have much effect on 4. But I'm not sure the best way to address that, other than potentially to repeal it. I've been trying to get copies of the studies that were pointed to, or even just finding out who was on the committee that drafted the resolution to cut all of the positions, some back to 2009 salary levels, but I have not yet received that. So at some point, I hope to, somebody can hopefully provide those to us, and then we'll have to figure out the best way to try to attack the problem, because otherwise we'll have a crisis if we can't find competent people to come in, because we're looking at some 13, 14-year-old salary levels. Other than that, we're moving ahead. We just had a nice trial verdict on a forcible rape case last week. Senior ADA DeStefano won that trial, and very happy for the victim. Other than that, not a whole lot. We're just trying to keep up with all of the increased workload for the new discovery laws and addressing the issues under the Bail Elimination Act and so on. I don't know if there's any questions.
Great. Anybody have any questions for DA? I just want to give other people a chance first, Tim, so you ask all the good questions and they don't get the chance to ask questions. If nobody else, and Tim, go right ahead.
Congratulations on your victory the other night.
Thank you.
Question for everybody in the room and the newly electeds. Secession for the end of your elected position. That's the governor's appointment?
No, there's an order of succession that's been filed with the clerk of the county as well as the clerk of the legislature that specifies the order of succession in the event that I'm unable to fulfill my duties as district attorney. Upon my resignation, that would take effect, and the acting district attorney would be named and appointed in that fashion. There is an opportunity that the governor, as the head of the executive department, could appoint someone for the rest of the term until a general election, but that's a very rare occurrence. I can only think of one instance that it's happened in recent memory. And it wasn't with the new governor, it was with a different governor. So most likely it'll be the succession as set forth that'll take over, which will by necessity create some positions below that require moving up or trying to track somebody from the outside either way. So we'll be very, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Question? Go ahead.
I'm just confused. So John, you think that there will be a plan that you put together to appoint a district attorney, and then you might be taking additional DA staff with you when you go to your judgeship? Is that what you're preparing us for?
Well, it's not it's not me preparing it. It's county law.
Oh, but there'll be multiple vacancies, so you might be losing other staff in your department. I'm just trying to understand what you're telling us is on our horizon.
Well, there's two parts to it. One is the county law, section 702, indicates that in the event of vacancy of the district attorney, the designee would then become the acting district attorney. So that is automatic. That's not new. It's not limited to our department. I think almost every
And
department.
what does, oh, your designee that you pick and from your office, is that, I'm not being sarcastic. I'm just trying to understand what you're saying.
Well, every elected and probably most of the appointed department heads have to have filed a order of succession in the event, let's say I stepped across the street and someone hit me. The world can come to an end. Someone's going to have to pick up and keep moving. So we've had that filed since I was first elected, end of 07, beginning of 08. I filed one. But that said, I'm obviously leaving. That's going to require a vacancy. We already have one ADA that left to get more salary in the private sector. If one of my, well, when one of my staff is moved up to acting district attorney, that'll create a vacancy in their position. And I am allowed under law to select an attorney as a law clerk to come to the bench with me, as well as a support person as a confidential secretary to come for appointment. So most likely we're going to be losing not just myself, but another attorney and a secretary. So they're going to be coming to this group to fill positions within the next couple of months. We're bringing the resolutions now to authorize it so that we can try to minimize the shortage in our office.
I thought you were fully staffed now, but that was my error. You're not.
We were fully staffed. We had one assistant district attorney, the discovery one, the lowest paid one, left us about a month ago or so. We had a resolution authorizing a refill already, came through.
Oh, that isn't, we haven't looked at refilling that at this point, right? Or we have?
Well, we're looking for assistant district attorneys, but our starting salary and the situation in the New York State is an issue. They have not yet filled that vacancy. Hopefully we'll get that done soon. We're advertising for a number of different spots in anticipation of the end of the year.
We haven't seen any resolutions, and that's what you're preparing us will be coming.
I
Yep.
think off the top of my head, I don't recall, but I think, yeah, there's more resolutions coming. They have not yet been filed this month because the election just happened. But we are drafting them and we'll be filing them before next month's meeting with the hope that we can get authorization to fill and start looking for people prior to actually becoming shorthanded more. So.
Just a reminder, John, this committee meeting is December 1st, so don't want to take too long on getting those resolutions if you're going to bring them forward.
No, we're working on it. Hopefully we'll have them in by then. Unfortunately, there's always plenty of stuff going on around here. But my point in bringing it up is that the cuts to the salary bands and so on will impact our ability to attract and or retain, but attract at this point good attorneys and or support staff. So like I said, I still don't know why it was the positions were cut and no one was consulted, and I don't even know who made the determination to set the bands where they were and so on, but I'm hoping to get that information, and that'll help us hopefully chart a course to resolving some of the issues. Some have been longstanding, such as the ADA that started a couple days before the end of the year and didn't get the new starting salary. And other similar issues, people that were here for years that didn't get bumped up to what the new starting salary plus their tenure would be, which are pretty much everybody in the office.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move along. Mr. Courier, I'm sure you're online, right?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. Couple of updates to our report that everyone, I believe, has. First of all, the highest priority, the EMS services. Last night we had a fire advisory board meeting, and this was one of the key topics of the evening. Sheriff Skank joined us. He has joined our ranks, if you will, in being concerned about the growing shortage of EMS capabilities or services throughout the county. An outcome of that meeting last night was that we'll look at, after the first of the year, potentially hosting a community roundtable to raise this up as an issue. But we do have a couple EMT classes scheduled for after the first of the year. Hopefully we can get more people involved. The other most significant item is the local flooding. Obviously, this is continuing to be a challenge in some areas, and from Cayuga Lake, Owasco Lake, Seneca River, Cross Lake, etc. The good news is the water is receding and we don't have a lot of rain or other precipitation in the forecast. It is receding somewhat slower than anticipated. Canal Corp is monitoring it and making adjustments as they can, where they can. So we still get a lot of phone calls from folks wanting to know how they can sign up for FEMA funding for property damage. And if you remember back, the August Tropical Storm Fred damage estimates and all, we have to have a state minimum threshold of $30 million in damage and a local public properties damage threshold of 300,000. So this latest storm that we've had, although there will be a lot of folks with property damage to their homes or personal property, this won't be something we'll see even remotely a shot at FEMA money for. But back to Tropical Storm Fred, the FEMA did deny the request in that declaration for independent or individual assistance, which would help homeowners. DHSES did meet with them, I believe it was last Monday. I called in today. They still haven't heard if FEMA is willing to change their positions on that. So we're still right now from Tropical Storm Fred only going to get FEMA money for public assistance. And I guess that's it. Can I add or clarify anything?
Any legislators have any questions? Heidi?
Hi, Dale. I have a question.
That was a high van.
Yes, he said hi back.
Oh, okay. I have a question about point C under operations. The EMO in continuous contact with, et cetera, et cetera. This is about our unusually high water levels, which are existing right now in the fall. I don't expect you to be an expert on meteorology or, ground water soaking, et cetera. But of course, winter is coming, and in spring we have natural winter runoff. So my concern is that if we have high water levels now, do you have concerns that our spring could be disastrous with natural snow runoff? I mean, is it typical? I let wet water fall.
Well, that's a great question, and actually, I had a long discussion with Canal Corp hydrologist earlier today. You know, there are many variables to answering your question. If we think back on the 2017 and 19 Lake Ontario floods, you know, part of the problem there was that we had abnormally high precipitation during the winter. For this coming winter, the predictions, and again, predictions are subject to many changes, are that it's going to be a fairly dry winter, and the water we're dealing with now that has saturated the ground will have had time before the ground freezes up to go deeper, so there will be a place for the new precipitation to soak in. So right now, between the Weather Service and the Canal Corp, looking forward to, if we have a typical winter, that concern has not raised its head yet. And like I say, I asked about it, and there's no red flags saying that that's a probability. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely answers it. And, you know, thank you for collaborating with this group to get those kinds of, you know, data-driven details and help us be prepared for the potential what ifs, if their answers were different than they are now for spring 2022. Thank you.
Yeah, well, they know what a typical winter will bring for runoff, and they do take measurements all through the winter, not only of what are water heights, but, you know, snowstorm a cubic yard of snow may have, and I'm just going to pick a number, an ounce of water in it. Snowstorm B, that same cubic yard might have 3 gallons of water in it. So they monitor that all winter as far as what's the moisture load, you know, what's the ground saturation, so that they can try to predict what the runoff may be and control those water bodies, get the water down so there's space for it when it does run off.
Thank you.
Sure.
Do you have a question?
I might have one or two.
All right.
Number one, Dale, I haven't seen any woolly caterpillars yet, so I can't really give you a good prediction, but I would love to see a little public-private at the meeting for the EMS, our ambulance service. Is the private sector going to be involved?
I would assume so. Again, we just discussed this last night. We haven't looked at specifics, but our goal is to raise awareness for parties that may not have full understanding of what many of the variables are. There are a couple of legislators that I have discussed this with who have called, who you know, weren't aware of some of the other pieces that impact this whole EMS system. And so obviously we would invite the EMS providers to be there to provide input to whomever chooses to come.
Thank you.
And one more item, if I may, I almost forgot. Please remember that on the 17th of November, we're doing the emergency management tier 3 training. We have an afternoon session 1 to 4, evening 5:30 to 8:30 at Cayuga. I think people would find it very helpful to understand more of the emergency management realm that we work in, particularly with all these floods and everything else. If you can make it, we'd love to have you. Please call the office and register with Rusty so we can plan for handouts and such.
Thank you. Any last questions for Dale? And we'll move on to probation. Jay?
Good evening. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. No resolutions pending at this point, anyone? Just a couple of small bullet points. Nothing significant from the Alternatives to Incarceration Board at this point in time. We'll do a year-end wrap-up at our fourth quarter meeting, which tentatively will be after the first of the year. I just wanted to highlight briefly, we had 3 officers working in the community on Halloween, checking on curfews for sex offenders. They're often under specialized ordering conditions of probation. It's one of the specialized populations that probation officers are responsible for. We've reviewed that for this year, and we're already talking about making some plans to expand that next year, and perhaps reaching out to the sheriff's office and the local police departments in the county to do some joint patrols and some shared interactions in the community. And that's both for effective enforcement of the ordering conditions and for visibility in the community, so people understand that we are watching these individuals and that we are a presence, even though they may not always see us. We don't operate the same way as uniform law enforcement does most of the time. We are out there. We just may not always be quite so visible. This is one of those opportunities to have a little bit more of an impact. We have now taken our new senior typist in. She's been with us for about a month, doing very well. That brings the department up to its current authorized strength. It also means we're back to being out of space. And I've raised this point before, moving into 2022, just making again the request that if parole is not going to be back and working out of space on the first floor of the courthouse, the request that that be reassigned to the probation department. We could use it as a dedicated interview space and use it as space for our sex offender counselor who is currently coming in and doing interviews and evaluations with us on site. So it's a need. We've been out of space for quite some time. It was really good a few years ago to get the first floor area, but we're back to not having sufficient space. The other final thing to talk about is just COVID, and we're operating in compliance with current guidelines. The state has rescinded their emergency operation declaration, so we're back operating under a regular Division of Criminal Justice Services guidelines. That's about it from there.
Amy? Hi, Elaine. I'm sorry.
How long has parole not been in that space?
Since the beginning of COVID.
They work through counties to occupy it, or?
Since they got here. Years ago, on getting them to pay rent. And
I've inquired of Buildings and Grounds has advised me it's a legislative decision. So I truly have no idea. And I don't know if county attorney's office would be able to respond to that or not. So that's why I'm bringing it to this body, because I really have no idea who to ask.
You just know it's not being
It's
occupied.
currently not being used.
It hasn't been in a while.
Parole is apparently in violation of the rental agreement with the county. I don't know who would be responsible for reviewing or renewing that agreement. But if they're not coming back, I'd like to make a respectful request that we're allowed to use that space. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Lattimore.
The governor of the state of New York, in her wisdom, has closed 6 institutions. That those bodies that were incarcerated, are they going to be in our areas or sent back to their place? And if there's an impact to our probation, are they sending any funds our way to help?
The majority of those individuals coming out of state facilities would be released to parole. They would either be under conditions with parole, or they would be released in an unsupervised manner, and I can't speak to how that may happen. There may be some.
They wouldn't go to probation.
There could potentially be a few, because there are some under the Andrews law or the DWI laws that are dual supervised. So they could potentially be under both the supervision of probation and parole. That's not a lot of cases, but I don't anticipate that being an impact. As far as budget goes, what we're being told from Office of Probation and Correctional Alternatives at this point in time is that there's not going to be any significant cut nor any significant additions to probation funding from the state level. We've been locked in at about 11% reimbursement for probably close to 10 years now. And that seems to be about where we're going to stay.
So no concerns on our budget.
No.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Anybody online? The public hearing is still open. Haven't heard anything from that, so I'll close that before the end of this meeting. We'll move along to our sheriff, Brian Stank.
Good evening, everyone. Submitted my report. I have a couple updates relative to the report. Good news, the final nursing candidates that we're interviewing to fill that third and final position. We do have some great candidates. It looks like we're going to be able to fill that and resolve our nursing issue. So as you all know, that's been a long work in progress with your help, and I appreciate it. Bad news, unfortunately, our staffing concerns have carried over to our custody division. So we're down a number of positions in our custody division in the jail. We have 10 staff members out due to various reasons, medical, COVID, administrative issues. People have been injured at work. So we're really struggling with staffing in the jail right now. It's having a negative impact on our overtime budget, just maintaining our mandatory minimums for staffing. But we are working through that. Last Friday, we held a physical agility exam for new hires, and we have 37 people on the current list. We invited all of them. 22 people came, 20 passed the physical agility. So we're going to be working with that list of people to try to fill those open positions. So hopefully we can fill those, or at least the majority of those. That's exhausted that list. We won't be given the test again until it's offered in the spring. So we're hoping if we can get our staffing levels back to where they need to be, that we don't lose anybody else between, or a significant number between now and then. So we're working on those challenges, but it has been very difficult. Our other divisions, we are nearly fully staffed in all of them, so we're only struggling in the jail, unfortunately. I don't have anything else. I do have an item to bring up with the assistance of our IT director. If nobody has any questions relative to my report, or
I just have one.
Heidi?
Under the fourth bullet and related to your explanation of the agility test invitations for those on the list, is that part of the in-house basic academy?
so we have an in-house basic academy scheduled for December 13th. We're working through background investigations and the list to try to make those hires by the end of this month. Give them 2 weeks notice to give that to their current employers. And we hope to have, if everything works out well, we hope to have 9 people in that basic academy beginning December 13th that will be running in-house. The Onondaga County Sheriff's Office will be sending 2 recruits from Onondaga County. We do partner quite frequently on different initiatives, and I'm glad to see that we continue to partner on this, but we'll be welcoming 2 of their recruits as well. That will be an in-house academy.
And that's like a quick and local solution with this list that you have for those who have passed the agility test to move on, get the other skill sets in place so that you have the proper staff of custodial guards at the jail.
Correct. The basic academy lasts 12 weeks.
Yeah.
And then there's a short training program. They'll have to shadow with somebody within the jail for a few weeks after that. So it really will be April or May before, we resolve that, even running this academy immediately.
Yeah.
And hopeful between now and then that we can some of our staff members that are out back, that are out on medical, leave and that type of thing. So.
Right.
But, struggle.
Thank you. Good work. Good
So we have
solutions
questions?
locally.
Not until Heidi gets.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just thanking him for the, local solutions and working on, jumping on it.
Thank you.
You're on.
Sheriff, we were in attendance today of some great veterans at City Hall. Veterans Day is tomorrow, can be honored. We had a terrific candidate that you put into the Hall of Fame. Would you just mention his name? I know he was on the SEAL team. And
I did make a nomination to Senator Helming's Veterans Hall of Fame nomination. Nominated Mark Wilmot from Aurora. He retired recently with 30 years with the Navy and Navy SEAL. Quite a decorated career that he had, and it was an honor for me being close friend with him. We went to school together to nominate him, so I was honored to do that today.
thank you.
Any questions? Anybody online have a question? I just have a couple of comments related to veterans. I have a 95-year-old father-in-law who was a World War II Purple Heart veteran. And I make a special effort tomorrow to thank him. Another comment was related to the process last year that we went through with Sheriff with Fort Byron and Union Springs for an SPO program. And we've had an SPO at our school for all of this year. Today he resolved a threat issue. And so again, I just want to thank you folks. I want to thank the legislature for making all that possible. Anything else? You have one more?
I do. I brought an issue tonight that's not part of my report, and I don't have a resolution for it, but I asked our IT director to join me because he'll have to explain this for me or help me do this. The computers, the mobile data terminals in our road patrol vehicles are way beyond their useful life. We've gotten every bit of use out of them that we possibly can, and this has been something that we had hoped to resolve in next year's budget, or potentially this. I believe IT submitted this as one of their requests for potentially utilizing American Rescue money for this, but it's become an emergency that I believe, and I'm going to ask Mr. Blum to explain. I believe that we don't have the ability to fix any of them at this point. Some of the components needed are no longer available, and we did get a quote to attempt to address this moving forward. We've had it for a little while, but what I understand in an email today, the pricing due to some component costs are going to go up if we don't address this by the end of the month. So I was hoping you would allow me the opportunity to let Mr. Glenn explain the issue and just the potential increase in cost if we do let this go beyond December at this point.
So thank you, Sheriff. So yeah, just to reiterate what he had brought up, essentially these MDT units are at their end of life. They are currently 9 years old and they're failing almost every day. We do not have any spare devices within the IT department to replace if we do come across a device failure. In the interim, I have exhausted my hardware budget to order a few extra devices just to get us through this interim phase. But as of right now, we have no spare devices at all. And not only have they reached end of life, they're also failing just basic connectivity back to home base, which talks to our ticket and accident reporting system. And the way the devices are set up, it's essentially in legacy mode. And because of this old technology, they are really unable to perform the modernized tasks of the updated server. So we are at a point now, where our backs are against the wall, and we have to move forward with an upgrade.
Sheriff, would it be possible for you to put together a resolution and put together a little bit more information for the ways and means?
I can certainly do that. I just wanted to bring it to your attention tonight, but this is something we really do need to look at this month.
If the committee if the committee agrees with me, then we'll tell the sheriff to bring that to ways and means. Anybody disagree with that? You're disagreeing, Tim?
No, I'm not
Oh,
disagreeing.
we have a question before you, though. Elaine, you had a question?
I didn't know Tom was on, but I do recall the resolution that was brought forward and then pulled because we were trying to look at the ARPA funds all at once, but do you recall the dollar amount in there?
I actually have the most up-to-date quote right now. The total is $225,540, and according to the supplier, they're looking at a potential increase of 5 to 10% after December 1st, due to some of the component costs. So it's increased the urgency on trying to.
Obviously, we brought forward, you didn't have money in your own budget to make this happen.
We don't have funds budgeted for this. Mr. Bunn brought that forward as an IT resolution.
Right.
I didn't bring that forward, but he didn't have budgeted funds for that.
Nor did you have within your budget to
No.
cover the cost of that?
No.
Yeah, in regards to shared services, have we asked the Auburn PD whether or not they need an upgrade to their units?
Have not. I don't know the status of their equipment.
Would it be helpful to do a shared services on computers?
I'm not sure if Tom could answer that. If he's familiar.
Yes. Yep. So I'm actually in communication right now with Cayuga and Adaga BOCES to get a quote to procure the hardware through them, which it does look like we will get a reduction in the overall cost, but like Sheriff said, there may be a slight uptick after December, just across the board due to component increase.
At one point, I thought you talked about unanticipated revenue coming in from the state reimbursed, but nothing to this magnitude that would.
We did receive funding to reimburse us for boarding fees for the state-ready inmates that we held during COVID that the state did not take within 10 days. We did receive that. That was $250,000 that we received earlier this year. It was not budgeted or anticipated that we would receive.
Next, I guess what I was asking, that wouldn't be unanticipated revenue that could go towards this project? Or?
I'm not sure how that would work as far as the budget is concerned, but we did accept that revenue from the state already. That was bumped into, I believe, one of our budget lines relative to boarding fees, but it wasn't something in the budget.
I mean, when you listen to Lynn, if it's unanticipated, it can come in and then be expensed, and, but, I mean, that would be the reason I asked if you had any.
Yeah, I would also ask you to go through your budget also and see if there's any line items where you could use some of the money. Help reduce that overall cost if you could, Sheriff.
Will do. Thank you.
Any other questions for the sheriff before we? It's been about 2 minutes shy of an hour for the public hearing. Nobody's called in. It's I don't have any disagreement with anybody. I'd like to close the public hearing at this time. Okay. And in that case, if we have no other business before this committee, entertain a motion to adjourn. Hans and Elaine,
Yeah, I'll second.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried. Thank you very much.
Government ops will start in 5 minutes.
5 minutes, give me a minute.
Ryan, I did a direct chat with them, but I haven't heard anything back yet.
All right, can whoever is on the iPhone, please identify themselves? Similarly, can the person that says James iPhone also identify themselves?
It could be Jim.
Did you ask me to identify myself?
Is this Jim?
Yeah, this is Jim,
Okay,
Jim Basile.
okay,
District
nice to
1.
meet you, Jim. Thanks for joining, and we're just waiting on one more individual, and we'll get the meeting started.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
All right, you know what? We'll just get the meeting started then. I'll call the meeting to order. It's 20 to 7, it looks like. And we have with us tonight myself in chambers, Legislator Nightingale, Legislator Petcher, Legislator Strong. I believe Trish is online. Is that Amanda, can you verify if Trish or Tucker or
Here
Mr.
I
Peters?
am.
Okay, nice to see you.
I do not believe Tucker is on.
Okay, and Mr. Peters?
I do not see him unless he is iPhone.
Oh, okay, that might make sense. All right, well, we do have a quorum, so we'll move on. It is a rather short agenda tonight. We do have a few resolutions and we'll get into those. We have minutes to approve from October 14th. I'll take a motion.
So moved, Mark.
Okay, moved by Mr.
Nightingale,
Strong,
second.
seconded by Nightingale. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, all opposed, carried. Thank you. No appointments for tonight. Discussion on charter, I've asked to kind of leave on the agenda for government operations in case we do have any updates. I haven't heard of any updates. It looks like that will be something for the next legislature to kind of take over and run with it, because you know how they see fit. I wish them the best of luck. Yeah, right. Moving on, we'll come up to department updates for committee. We do have Cheryl and Kate's report. I don't know if there's any question. I don't believe one of them are on, or I could have missed them. You can't always see who's on. Okay, well, any questions for the Board of Elections? I heard that the election went rather smoothly. Tim?
Well, participating in the last election and not faring as well as I thought I should, but one question I did have, when you have a citywide election, you have a brand new firehouse, why are we voting at in the town of Alaska? So I'd like to see that improved in the future.
All right, great. We'll send that along to them. Thank you for the input. Any other questions for the Board of Elections? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to Clerk of the Legislature. Amanda, you are up.
Hi, Sheila does not have any updates, but we do have 2 resolutions on the agenda. I don't know if we want to do those later or do you want to get into them right now?
Oh, let's go right now. So I'm actually, do you have Geo5 amended properly or not? Because I might pull that and ask Ways and Means to take it up, only because I know that we emailed today and it was not finished. It needed a bunch of amendments, and I don't think that the committee is going to be able to insert what needs to be done at that point.
I have amended it, and I did upload it to the website and into the Clerk of Ledge docs. So whether or not the committee wants to pass that or not is up to you guys.
Okay, so all of the amendments then that need to be made are in the final form.
Yes, correct. There was just some of the salaries were just incorrect in the back portion of the resolution.
Okay, all right, great. So, well, let's start with GO4 then. You can present that and we'll go on from there.
All right, so GO4 is designating December 14th as the final meeting for the Cayuga County Legislature for the fiscal year 2021.
Okay, I'll take a motion for that.
Move it, Mark.
Moved by Mark, seconded by Hans. Any discussion? December 14th, last meeting of the year. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? All right. Trish was a yes. It was just a little delayed, but carried.
See you
Thank
later.
you.
And
Okay, I can do
GO5 is setting date for public hearing on the tentative county budget. And that also has the salaries in it.
Be better to wait a little bit.
Yeah, official elected or appointed salaries behind it.
Okay, wait 1 second, Amanda. Keith, Batman, please mute
Yeah,
yourself.
sorry. Yeah,
You're-
sorry.
Okay, so Amanda, can you restate that, please?
Sure. So this is setting date for public hearing on the tentative county budget. This has the legislator salaries in it, and this also has the official elected or appointed positions salaries for 2022.
Okay. 1 second, Tim. Okay, do you want to just note, because there might have been legislators that read the earlier version, haven't seen your amendments. And as I understand, they just had a bunch of salaries in there that were incorrect. So you guys got the right numbers, put them in there, and just give us an update on what that was before we move it.
Sure. The coroners needed to be changed 17,860 to 17,864. The sheriff's was 88,018. And then highway superintendent was noted as the director of public works, which we do not have. We have highway superintendent, so that needed to be corrected. And then the director of real property tax services, the salary needed to reflect obviously the new salary that was just passed.
Okay. All right. So let's take a motion for GO5 then. I'll move it. And Heidi, second that. We have a question from Tim.
The county treasurer, I can't see the board. What do you got for the county treasurer?
77.5.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, may I ask this Batman, may I ask a question?
Go for it.
Okay, yeah, I know some of these salaries are going to be discussed in the context of the budget. So what complications arise if we pass a resolution with the salaries and then we change the budget amounts for 2022? Is it possible to pass because this is what is this for? A public hearing? Is it possible to this is an attorney question, I guess. Is it possible to pass a resolution indicating a public hearing on the tentative county budget as to be approved on a certain, whatever the date, December, whatever, and will to include these positions without an amount, or if those amounts are changed, what kind of complications are there if we put amounts in here and the actual budget has different amounts, higher or lower?
Right, I'll look to our county attorney's office. We do have Brittany in chambers, and maybe she can.
I believe we can just amend them at the time that we're, when the resolutions will be passed, because I believe they're just setting the tentative budget or the tentative public hearing. But I believe we can just amend it after that. I will have to look into further how that's going to affect these changes, but several of these were set by local law prior. the local law 1 of 2021. So I have to just go back and check which ones are up for discussion versus what was already set previously.
Okay, well, what he's saying though is because we have to advertise a public hearing, I believe,
Yes, and
right?
we can advertise the public hearing, but with
Right, but what happens if the salaries end up changing that were part of that? That's your question, Keith, just so.
That's correct.
Right, okay.
Then we have another local law, which seems crazy. Some of these are set by local law, right?
Well, this is what, okay, so, oh boy. So what I asked for previously was, did I need to pull this resolution in order to get some of these questions answered? I was assured that that would not be the need or the case. And now we don't know quite for sure. I do have a question from Hans. What we may end up having to do, if it's okay with Keith, is backtracking our motion to move it. So I would backtrack it, then Heidi, and then we would just keep it on the table, and Keith would be able to maybe take it up at Ways and Means if he's so willing to do so.
Yeah, it kind of depends. My concern about Ways and Means is because the way we structure our budget hearings, the Ways and Means, following Ways and Means, we have a budget hearing for Ways. And so it kind of depends how complicated this is. But on the other hand, I do understand what you're saying. If there are questions here, and this is a big one, I think, if how complicated it is, if we have an amount in a resolution going forward that it's then approved by Ways and Means and approved by the legislature in November, and that amount changes in the December approval of the budget, if that screws us up, then we're going to have to get answers to those. So yeah, we got to do what we got to do is my point.
Right. I mean, the other option is to try to figure that out tonight, which it doesn't seem like we're going to be able to do. Or vote it down, I suppose, is another one. And I'm not sure how effective that would be.
Yeah, that might not help.
Okay, so, well, let's, Hans had a question, so let's go to that just to see.
I had a comment.
Oh, a comment, I'm sorry, go for it.
And basically, having gone through this a number of times as town supervisor, the salaries have to be advertised along with a notice of the public hearing. And I went through it with Fred Westfall a few years ago.
Okay, all right.
Or actually was Chris.
Palermo?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good. So.
Could you repeat that, Brian? I couldn't hear.
Oh, what he said was that the salaries also have to be included in the when it's advertised. And so what his point is that advertising them and then changing them at a later date is not going to be legally correct. And he said he spoke with County Attorney Chris Palermo a while back to verify that. And that was also the way they did it when he was town supervisor.
Okay, well, ask him, Hans, do you remember if we advertise these salaries for the public hearing, and then the decision at that public hearing on December 9th is to make changes, we can do that, right? Maybe that's the solution.
I'm going to answer that. So.
Yeah, he doesn't know for sure. That would be for our legal team, I suppose, and I don't know if we have that answer tonight.
No, I don't know that answer.
Okay, so she doesn't. So what we're going to do is, Keith, I hate to kind of drop this on you. I don't know, another way to do it. I'll certainly back up my motion. Heidi, would you do the same, just given the circumstances?
Yeah.
Okay, so those are
Thanks,
both.
Brian.
Yeah. And we do need to get some of these figured out. Hopefully we can by Ways and Means. We won't move on it tonight. We'll just leave it as is. Doesn't even need to be pulled. And we'll try to get all of that stuff answered prior to Ways and Means and then have that full resolution there and then. If it's super complicated, then there's a lot of work that we have to do. To Keith's point, it is a busy time of year. So we'll try to make it as simple as possible. With that said, is there any other questions for our clerk's office? Tim?
You mentioned appointments. I know that there's several large power projects in the county, and the power board has not met in 6 months because of not having been reappointed. I think there's been a list sent. Madam Chairman, I'd like to see that list put on at least to be discussed.
Okay.
For appointments.
I assume that that would be up to the chairwoman, and I would, offer you to direct your question to her when she might bring those forward. With that said, any other questions for the clerk's office? All right, anything else to add, Amanda?
Nope, that's it. I did want to add, we are trying to plan the holiday welcome in, welcome out party, or welcome in kind of goodbye party for December 17th. If you guys just want to pencil it in. It's not definitive yet, but I do want to just throw it out there so you can pencil it in.
Okay, great. All right, I'll be interested to hear about that more once we get more details. I'm sure by the time our last meeting, December 14th, we might all need some type of party after that. So thank you, Amanda. Moving forward, we have Chris Palermo. Brittany is in chambers tonight. She can give us the report if there's anything.
No major updates. We're live and well, and Rich and I are available by phone or email.
Okay, great. Now we do have a resolution from CCC that we need to discuss, and there is someone on from CCC. Is it Albert? Is it Albert?
Hi, I'm here, yes.
Hi, all right, so we have GO1, that's the approval of the annual SUNY capital request. And so maybe you can just tell us a little bit about that, so maybe we can move it and kind of go from there.
Yes, we are looking for approval. We have two projects. The first is to replace the existing HVAC units, which is in the library area of our Auburn campus. That would be half supported by SUNY and half by the foundation for a total of $450,000. And I just, oh good, that was changed. I wanted to make sure because it did originally say 250 from the foundation, but it is 225. And the second is for a enhancement to the current childcare project, which we are not sure if it'll be an addition, demolition, but that is $650,000. And again, that would be half SUNY and half from our Faculty Student Association. So we are looking for approval from the county for these two projects.
Okay, great. Then if let's get some motion for it.
Nightingale.
Nightingale moved. Second, I'll second. Oh, Trish has a second. That works for me.
I'll second.
Any questions about this resolution, GO1?
Is this just coming on now?
No, this has been on there. Yep. All right. It's been on the agenda. Any hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Kelly, great job.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Not a problem. We might need you in the future, maybe at Ways and Means or the full edge if there's any questions there, but we'll go from there, okay?
We will be there. Yep. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Moving on. Brittany, thank you. We have Sue Dwyer, who I know is on tonight. She was. Sue?
There I am.
Oh, here
I just got this double computer thing going.
I pulled that resolution, you know that, right? Ryan?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Just want to make sure. We're going great guns again in the recording office, continues to be a lot of recording and filing, so record numbers. So that's good for our treasurer's office as well, our bottom line. I just wanted to say I have this probably my longest report ever that will go on the website, but one of them is we, NISAC, New York State Association of County Clerks, we have legislative priorities and I will be asking you to support them. So I'm hoping you look them over. I sent you all a copy of the report today. And if you don't support any of it, let me know, but I'll come back to you and ask you for your support formally after you do. And I want to draw attention to the Records Retention Center. Because so many people are digitizing their records in the county, even before a big project, but we have a ton of shredding, like more than you'd ever believe. So you'll see it, how much we have. And in addition to that graph that we provided for the Records Center, there's 125 more boxes. So it just keeps coming. We're getting a lot of stuff in bins. Hopefully our shredder will handle this, but it's going to be like that all the time, probably on in. So we need to think about that. Just want to draw your attention to that, but everything else is good. Oh, and passports, there's less time for the processing now. So I think they're about at 8 to 10 weeks, which is great. Came down from 18 weeks. So we're getting a lot of passport business too. That's all I got.
All right, great. And Sue, when Bill Hewlick was the shredder, he brought me down there and showed me. It's like huge conveyor belt. Yeah, it's really neat because I don't know how much paper that can handle, but it seems like.
You want to get your arm too close to that mess.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Well, our one person that does the majority of the shredding and records, everybody does a part, but he had shoulder surgery, so he's still recuperating. So we got a couple volunteers from DMV once a week. Now I contacted Mr. Alberisi at Employment and Training, and he came up with somebody. The Buildings and Grounds came up with somebody. So we are making it work. Hopefully we just keep going in that direction. We're not afraid to shred a box ourselves. So, but again, it's getting to the point where it might be not a good business model, but we'll see. But on the other hand, thinking about all the digitizing that's going on and that we're getting rid of this paper, that's good too. That's the direction we want to move in. So.
Okay. Any questions for Sue?
I have a question, Ryan.
Yeah, go for
it.
How are you?
Hi, Sue. Good. How are you? I read your report, and I just want to say, first of all, thank you to Ruth Bradley for helping to do some research on one of the Habitat for Humanity homes here in the city of Auburn. Our partner family was thrilled to read about the history of that historic property. So thank you for that. And I also just was wondering if you could comment. You mentioned the filing of the DD 214s in the clerk's office, especially with returning veterans. You're seeing maybe some more, or you want to raise awareness about that. And I was wondering if you could comment on that, as well as maybe just a brief comment on the Return the Favor program, knowing that Veterans Day is tomorrow. Make sure that everybody's aware of that program and what it is.
Thank you so much. Yep. We just put a news flash out on the website saying, don't forget, if you're a returning veteran and you're going to separate from the military, don't forget to come to our office first. File your DD 214, which are separation papers, because all through their lives, they will need a copy or certified copy or the original when they go and do things. And so a lot of people forget where they put them. If they come here and file them first, we always can give them a certified copy, and nothing is, no filing fee, no fee for copies ever. They're always here. And families are so relieved when it comes time when they need them. Unfortunately, sometimes the veteran isn't around at that point, that we have them here. A lot of funeral places need them. So their records are always here. That's one thing. And then the return the favor is something we started probably maybe 8 to 10 years ago. And it's to promote local business, but also to promote our veterans. So the veterans get discounts on local businesses, and it's a win-win situation. We have about 100 and probably 30 businesses. After COVID, actually, we had to reassess all of those businesses and send them a letter and say, are you still interested? Can you still give the discount? Do you want to change your discount? So it's an updated list. And anytime a veteran comes in to file their DD 214, we give it to them. When a veteran comes in to get their DD 214, to go over to the DMV and get the veterans mark on their license, we always tell them about it. I called the veterans office to tell them about the DD 214 promotion, and they were going to put it on their website too. So the return the favor is been going great. And anytime somebody comes in for a DBA or business certificate, we hand them that that application, and they fill it out sometimes right then and there, say we want to give the veterans a discount. So we have lots of different kinds of things. By the way, our DBAs, there's a ton of DBAs now too, and they're all very interesting. Today we had one called Juicy, and it's going to be fresh squeezed juice. These two gentlemen are going to start it right on Genesee Street here. So, we're always looking for things. Sometimes they bring us in free samples if it's something to do with food. So anyway, thank you for asking about that. And, I'm a big supporter of Habitat for Humanity. So yeah, that was great that we did that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mhm.
All right, so I have a question from Tim.
Yes, now just a comment, Trish, we were together with Pam Helming, and the sheriff was here at the last meeting. He had a great candidate. You want to just mention who your candidate was at the veterans thing at City Hall?
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that, Tim. I nominated Karen Macier for the Veteran Hall of Fame. Some of you may know her as the retired executive director for the United Way, but she also spent 20 years of service in the United States Army and Reserves. She served in Saudi Arabia and in U.S. intelligence as a female, and at a time when there likely weren't nearly as many females as there are now in the military, in a country that doesn't have nearly as many rights for women as we have here in this country. So knowing that Karen's spent a lot of service time helping to promote women's rights across the world through Zanta, I was very excited to be able to have her there today, being recognized for her service, as well as alongside, there's 8 other veterans in Cayuga County that were recognized today by Senator Helming. She did a great job with her event, and my understanding is that this is something that she does annually. So congratulations to everybody that was nominated. I just wanted to say thank you to all of those individuals for their service.
Thank you, Trish.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that, Trish. It's a good update with the Veterans Day being tomorrow, and we also have a report from the Veterans Department later on this evening. So we'll get to that. And any other questions for Sue? All right, hearing none. Thank you, Sue. Next up is IT Director, Mr. Tom Bunn.
Thank you so much. No major updates at this time, other than, obviously, we're still doing a lot of work on a lot of the active projects I highlighted last month, including firming up a date for our Chambers audio video solution installation, which is tentatively slated for mid-December. So we're excited about that. To update you on one of the projects to eliminate SharePoint is a new online form workflow process. That is just about near completion, and we are ready to roll that out. So you'll look forward to seeing that within the next couple of weeks. And another piece was to roll out a multi-factor authentication solution. So just last week, we were in touch with Cisco, where they provided us a proof of concept where we were able to get our solution installed, integrated with all of our county applications. So in this proof of concept, we have things tested out internally as an IT department. So once our official purchase happens and occurs, we can easily roll that out to all county employees, which will serve as our requirement as a part of our cyber security insurance renewal. And that's pretty much my update, with the exception of bringing forth a resolution, which you'll see, which basically authorizes the agreement between the county and Cayuga Onondaga BOCES in a shared service.
Okay, great. So we'll go ahead and do questions for you first, and then we'll move on to the resolution. So any questions for IT department?
I have a question.
Okay, go for it.
Or Ryan, do you want me to hold my question related to the resolution?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, I'll hold it then. It's specific.
Okay. Tom, I had one, just a quick one. We keep getting these, some legislators keep getting notifying, I don't know, emails that says they need to do some training. They can't tell if it's real or fake. They've tried to do the training, it doesn't work. Some have messaged the IT department to see if it's real or fake, and they haven't heard back. So, one was like the social red flags or something. Can you, I know that our IT department tries to throw out little, I guess, fake emails just to see what response rate looks like in terms of potential spam. But I'm trying to figure out if this one is legit or not so we can complete it.
Yep. So there is an annual cybersecurity awareness training that is provided by KnowBe4. And if you haven't completed the annual training, you will receive a notification stating so, and it will provide you instructions to complete the training. If you are able to access that for whatever reason, you can email me directly, and I'd be happy to walk through that with you. On that vein, as a part of KnowBe4, they do also provide what's called security assessment, risk assessments for the county, and occasionally they will send out some, fake phishing attempts to see who will click on those emails, and I do get a quarterly report on those as well. So, I'm thinking that maybe both, we're encountering both. But if you have specific questions around either of those, please reach out to me directly, and I'd be happy to work with you.
Okay, great. The one that I have specifically is, I guess, called social red flags. Have you heard of this?
Yes, that looks like it's part of the course training for the cyber security awareness, and is a part of the KnowBe4 solution.
Okay, so it is a real one, then we have to do it. We're doing, okay.
Yep.
Right. All right, any other questions before we move on to, Tim has one.
You're doing a great job, especially with this this BOCES procurement, I think we can buy software a lot cheaper than what we've been doing. If you coordinated with the college, and I know the sheriff is just here asking for new computers for the cars. Are you coordinating all those purchases?
Yes, I'm actively coordinating with the college. I've reached out to a contact there. I also have reached out to Cayuga Onondaga BOCES specifically to obtain a quote for the patrol, the hardware around the patrol upgrade. So I'm waiting to get that back. I should have that back by the end of this week. So, yes.
Thank you.
Of course.
And just one last question before we get to the resolution. The outgoing legislators typically have to hand in like their key fob and their computer. Do you guys have a process that you want us to follow? I haven't heard of anything. I'm sure we could probably just ask our clerk's office, but while I have you here, I might as well ask.
Yeah, so I'll be reaching out to all of you along with HR just to make sure that we have everything we need when the transition does occur. So, yep.
All right, thank you. All right, so we'll move on to resolution. GO3, Hans moved it. Second by Mark. Any discussion on this? Trish, I remember had one. Trish?
Yeah, is it GO3, Ryan, or?
GO3. Or I'm sorry, GO2.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. I was just curious if there were specific opportunities that have been identified already related to this agreement. You mentioned one already, Tom. And I just was wondering if there was something specific that prompted this, or would this be a blanket agreement to allow for collaboration, moving forward, I guess, as opportunities arise.
Sure. It certainly is a blanket agreement which covers us over a wide variety of different pieces, but I definitely identified that the sheriff's patrol vehicles, an opportunity to partner with Cayuga Onondaga for our multi-factor authentication solution, where we've actually seen a pretty substantial discount from what we were quoted as a county, as opposed to what Cayuga was able to get for us. So that's another solution. Essentially, any piece of software that we currently purchase as a county that you would find in the K-12 realm would be eligible. Same with hardware. And I also, there is an opportunity to partner with Cayuga as well for professional services, if you will, around training or documentation around IT software support. So it opens the door for us pretty good into a substantial cost savings and some just additional services available to us.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Great.
Okay. Any other questions on GO2? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Carried. All right. Tom, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I believe our last report for the night is the veterans. They don't have any updates. I've heard things are running there. Mark?
Yeah, we interviewed 2 candidates on the 3rd round of interviews. We did pass along a candidate for possible consideration to HR. And I believe that person will be brought to the full ledge to have an interview before all the final I's are dotted and T's are crossed. I don't know if I'm going to hold off on the individual's name for the fact that I don't know if that person has accepted the offer.
Right.
So,
Okay.
but we did put somebody forward.
Right, wonderful.
And I think it'd be a great candidate.
Yeah, so that has been a process. Mark, thank you for serving on that as, legislative hand, and also a veteran. Jim Orman was on there, myself, Aileen,
and HR,
HR. Yeah.
Mike,
That final round of interviews, I believe, happened yesterday,
yes,
right? Yes, yep. Okay, so we're moving along as fast as we can, and hopefully we have a meet and greet at the full edge like we did with IT,
Yep.
Mr. Bunn. And then can get it approved that night, maybe not, but we'll see how it goes, okay? Any questions?
Are you thinking December?
I think they're gonna try to bring him to this month's ledge,
Oh, November.
just
Okay.
as a meet and greet.
Yep, okay.
And then, I don't know where, the actual hiring part is, but, we did pass along on it. I think it'll be a good move for the county.
Okay. I'm hoping that we can move that along that night. And maybe, see, but, it's a process, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so, any other questions for Veterans Office, or anything else to come before this committee?
Brian Richard also came back in case you guys want to re-ask him regarding the GO5.
Okay, so we are not going to get into that, because it will just be a huge issue. So with that said, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Hello.
Moved by Mark, seconded by Hans. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, everybody, thank you so much. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you, Ed.
Yeah.
Good night, everyone.
We're gonna do it after the meeting. They're gonna get the salary.
No, it's just setting up, this is what I was understanding. This is just set the public hearing date, our subject is based on what is then further determined by